I hadn't seen Zane in almost a year, but the second he stepped through my door, everything in me tightened, the way your body tenses before a storm. He walked in like he still lived here, like the space hadn't changed, like we hadn't grown apart. Same couch, same ugly rug, he grinned, tossing his duffel down and stretching his arms wide. You, however, look like you've joined a cult. I smirked. It's called adulthood. We wear button-ups now. He looked me over slowly, his gaze lingering. And rings. My hand instinctively rubbed the engagement band I hadn't taken off since Claire slid it on 6 months ago. Still on. Wow, he muttered, collapsing into the couch. You really did it. You're someone's future husband. The way he said it felt heavier than a joke, but lighter than a judgment. That was Zane, always living in the gray. We used to exist there together, back when rules bent more easily. I handed him a beer and sat down across from him, already too aware of how close we were. So, what's new? Found anyone yet? Plenty of someones, he said with a wink. But no one worth bringing home. Unlike you, Mr. Monogamy. It's not a prison sentence. No, he said, taking a sip, but it's still a sentence. That stuck with me longer than it should have. We ordered food, played old video games, and let the night slip back into familiarity. It was dangerous how easy it was to forget the time and distance. Zane still laughed like he was made of fire, still looked at me like he was trying to read thoughts I hadn't said out loud. At one point, we fell into silence, the kind that wasn't awkward but thick with things unspoken. He nudged me with his foot. Do you remember that night before college? I stiffened. Yeah. Do you ever think about it? I stared at the half-empty beer in my hand. Sometimes. That night meant something to me, he said softly. My chest tightened. We were drunk. We were honest. I looked away. And I'm not that guy. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Aren't you? Or are you just afraid to be? I stood up, suddenly needing space. Come on, man. Don't do this. Do what? Bring up the truth? You kissed me, Liam. I didn't trick you. I didn't force anything. You wanted it. That was years ago. He stood now too, facing me too close. Then why does it still mess with you? The air buzzed. He smelled like cheap cologne and memory. His eyes didn't blink. Because it shouldn't, I whispered. He reached up, brushing my jaw with the back of his hand. Just once. Just to prove it meant nothing. Or that it still does. My heart thudded like I'd sprinted. I didn't move. I didn't say no. I also didn't lean in. I was suspended between gravity and guilt. His fingers dropped away, and he chuckled softly. Still too scared. Not scared. Loyal. He raised an eyebrow. To her or to the version of yourself you think she loves? Later that night, we lay on opposite ends of the couch, watching some action flick neither of us were really paying attention to. My phone buzzed with a message from Claire. I love you. Sleep well, baby. Can't wait to be your wife. I stared at it too long. Zane saw the screen. She's sweet. She is. She has no idea, huh? No idea about what? I said too quickly. He didn't respond. We sat in that loaded silence again until he spoke, voice softer now. I'm not trying to ruin anything for you. I just want you to stop lying to yourself. You think I've been lying for 10 years? I think you've been trying to live a life you were told to want. And every time you see me, you remember the one that almost happened. That was the thing about Zane. He never had to yell. His truths landed like stones in water, small, but sinking deep. He stretched out, his arm resting just a bit too close to mine. You know, you could have just told me to leave. That would have been easy. Safer. I looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't just some phase or fantasy. He was the only person who ever made me question everything. And he knew it. I didn't ask you to stay, I said. But you didn't ask me to go either. He closed his eyes, head tilting back against the cushion, jawline sharp in the glow of the TV. And that was when I realized I'd already crossed the first line. The kind you don't see until you're too far past it to go back. Zane was still asleep on the couch when I woke up. The blanket I'd thrown over him had slipped off, revealing the lines of his back and the faint curve of a tattoo I hadn't seen before. I stood in the kitchen, making coffee with shaking hands, trying to convince myself that nothing had happened. But something had. Last night, when the movie ended, he hadn't moved. He just looked at me and asked if he could stay over. I said yes before my brain caught up. He followed me into the bedroom like it was natural, like it was routine. I told him to take the bed. I'd sleep on the floor. He said, "Grow up, Liam. We're adults now." So I slipped under the sheets beside him, hearts between us, but not enough space. Our backs touched. I didn't move. Neither did he. Then he whispered, "You remember how I used to calm you down? When you got anxious before finals?" I didn't answer, but I remembered. His arms. The quiet breathing. The way he used to hold me like I was something breakable. Last night, he did it again. He reached around, rested his palm on my chest. My heart thundered against it. I didn't stop him. The coffee dripped too slow. My stomach twisted with guilt, but underneath it, buried under the shame, was heat. Memory. I told myself it was the alcohol, the nostalgia, the dark. But when he finally walked into the kitchen, shirtless and stretching, I felt it again, that pull. Like gravity had shifted and now everything leaned toward him. "Mornin'," he said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. I handed him a mug. Our fingers brushed. We didn't talk about the hand on my chest. We didn't talk about how I didn't flinch when he slid his leg against mine or how I shifted closer during the night. We both pretended to forget. But we hadn't. "Claire called this morning," I lied. "She wants to see me this weekend." He sipped slowly. "You gonna tell her?" "Tell her what?" "That I touched you and you didn't stop me." I looked up sharply. His gaze didn't waver. "There's nothing to tell," I said. He tilted his head. "Is that how you sleep with all your guy friends? Let them hold you like that?" I bristled. "We didn't sleep together." His smile was cruel and soft all at once. "Didn't we?" We drove to the lake around noon, just like old times. The sun was high, the air thick with late summer heat. Zane stripped to his boxers before I even parked the car. "You're gonna burn," I warned. "You're gonna stare," he replied, grinning before diving in. I didn't join him right away. I stood there watching the water swirl around him, his skin golden and wet, his laughter echoing off the trees. I thought about Claire, her soft lips, her trust, the ring she picked out for me with shaking hand. But my eyes kept going back to Zane. Eventually, I jumped in. The water was shockingly cold. We wrestled like kids, splashing and dunking each other. But underneath the play was tension, sharp and undeniable. Every touch lingered longer than necessary. Every accidental graze felt intentional. Then, out of nowhere, he grabbed my wrist underwater and pulled me close. "You gonna keep pretending?" he said, voice low, wet hair dripping into his eyes. I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. "I'm not asking you to leave her," he continued. "I'm asking for one truth. Just once." Before I could react, he kissed me, soft and slow, not playful like before. It wasn't rough or hungry. It was devastating. And worse, I kissed him back. Only for a second. Maybe two. But enough. I pushed him away, breathing hard. "What the hell are we doing?" He didn't chase me. He just said, "Whatever you've been dying to do for years." We drove back in silence. The radio played some sad, slow song, and I hated how perfect it felt. Back home, I locked myself in the bathroom, stared at my reflection. I didn't look like a cheater. I didn't feel like someone who betrayed his fiancée. But the truth stared back, clearer than ever. I had crossed another line. Claire called while I was still staring into the mirror. I didn't answer. That night, Zane didn't sleep on the couch. He stood in my bedroom doorway, not asking, just waiting. I should say no, I whispered. He took a step inside. But you won't. I sat on the bed, heart racing. This isn't me. He kneeled between my legs. Maybe it is. Maybe it's the only real version of you. I didn't stop him when he leaned in. I didn't flinch when his hands moved up my thighs. We didn't speak again that night. Not when he undressed me like he'd done it before. Not when I whispered his name into his mouth. Not even when I came undone in his arms, shaking and terrified of what it meant. Zane's hand was still resting on my chest when my phone began to buzz on the nightstand. He didn't move. Neither did I. The screen lit up with Claire's name and a photo of us from a weekend trip to the mountains. Her smiling face, innocent and bright, stared back at me while the weight of Zane's fingers settled deeper into my skin. I watched the screen go dark. "Are you going to answer that?" Zane murmured, voice still thick with sleep and something heavier, satisfaction, maybe. Or shame. I couldn't tell. "No," I whispered. He slid his hand slowly down my torso and let it rest over my heart. "It's still beating. Unfortunately." He turned onto his side, eyes searching mine. "You don't regret it?" I wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I rolled onto my back and stared at the ceiling fan spinning like a slow confession. Last night had been soft. Slow. Nothing rushed or reckless. That made it worse. Zane had kissed me like he meant it. Had held me like he'd never stopped wanting me. And I had let it happen. Every second of it. Earlier, before the lights went out, I had tried to make it just a kiss. Just one moment, one lap. But it kept going. We undressed each other in silence, our movements measured but intense. I could feel his hesitation. He wasn't pushing me. He was waiting for permission, and I gave it to him in every way I knew how. His lips explored the parts of me no man ever had, and I didn't flinch. Didn't stop. I'd told myself I was straight for so long, it had become a shield. But last night shattered it. Zane hadn't taken advantage. He hadn't manipulated me. He'd just held up a mirror. And I'd finally looked. Now, in the daylight, the guilt began to bloom. "I have to tell her," I said suddenly. Zane sighed. "Tell her what? That you were confused? That your best friend touched a part of you no one else has, and you liked it? I cheated on her, Zane." "You did," he admitted. "But not just with me." I blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" He sat up, sheets pooling at his waist. "You've been emotionally cheating for years. Every time you thought about me instead of her. Every time you pushed it down and smiled like everything was perfect. You don't get to justify this." "I'm not justifying anything," he said, voice quiet now. "I'm just telling you the truth." I got up, pulled on my jeans and stared at the mess of our clothes on the floor. Claire had given me that shirt for Christmas. I couldn't even bring myself to touch it. My phone buzzed again, this time a message. "Hope you're sleeping in. Call me when you wake. I miss you." It hurt in ways I wasn't prepared for. Zane came up behind me and rested his chin on my shoulder. "You love her?" I nodded. "I do. But not like this." His arms slipped around me from behind, and I didn't pull away. Later, we sat at the kitchen table, sunlight pouring in like it didn't know what had happened the night before. Zane sipped coffee and scrolled through his phone while I stared at mine like it was a bomb about to go off. "I should end it with her before I ruin everything." "You already did," he said without looking up. I flinched. "Then what am I supposed to do now?" Zane looked up. His eyes weren't cruel this time. Just tired. "You're supposed to figure out who you are. Because I think you've been trying to be everyone else's version of Liam except your own." The silence after that was suffocating. That evening, Claire called again. I stood in the hallway, Zane just out of sight, as I finally picked up. "Hey baby," she said, voice sweet and unsuspecting. "I was starting to get worried. Sorry. I had a late night. With Zane." "Yeah." She laughed lightly. I bet you guys got into trouble. Just don't let him drag you into his bad habits. Too late. We didn't really do much, I lied. Just hung out. Talked. Good, she said. You deserve some fun. I was thinking, maybe I'll come down early. Tomorrow morning. My throat closed. I'd love that, I managed. When I hung up, I found Zane in the living room, zipping up his bag. You're leaving? I asked. He nodded. She's coming. You're not ready. I shouldn't be here. Don't do that. He looked at me for a long moment. Do what? Leave like this. How else should I leave? He said. You got what you needed. So did I. That's not fair. Neither is pretending this never happened. I took a step toward him. It wasn't just once. He smiled faintly. No. It never was. Claire arrived the next morning just after 10 a.m., suitcase in hand, glowing with the kind of love that made me want to crawl out of my skin. I missed you, she said, arms wrapped tight around my neck. And this place smells like boy. Like beer and sweat. I laughed because I had to. That's probably accurate. She pulled back, her eyes searching mine. Are you okay? Yeah. Just tired. Her gaze lingered on my face a second longer before she smiled. Well, I'm here now. Let's spend the weekend doing nothing. I nodded, but in the space between us, I still felt Zane. The apartment had been stripped of him, no signs of the night we shared. He was always careful that way. No mess. No trace. Just memory. Claire unpacked in my bedroom. Our bedroom. She laid her dresses beside the wrinkled bedsheets he'd once clutched in his fists. I watched her fold her love into the drawers like a future I wasn't sure I deserved. While she showered, I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my phone. Zane had texted. Hope she made it safely. Then, a second one. I won't reach out again. But I'll answer if you do. I didn't respond. But I didn't delete it either. Later that day, Claire curled up beside me on the couch. Her fingers intertwined with mine, soft and familiar. We watched some show she loved, something cheerful, harmless. I barely heard it. My thoughts were louder. You're quiet, she said. Just tired. Zane kept me up talking all night. She chuckled. Of course he did. He's chaos. I flinched. Not chaos. Just clarity I wasn't ready for. She leaned into me. You're still my favorite person, you know that? My stomach twisted. Even when I'm distant? Even then, she smiled. You've always been worth the patience. She kissed my jaw. I kissed her back. My body responded. But my heart hesitated. That night, while she slept beside me, peacefully, trustingly, I lay wide awake. My chest ached with the weight of two truths I couldn't reconcile. Claire loved me in the kindest, safest way. She'd never doubt me unless I gave her reason to. And Zane? Zane didn't just see me. He called something out of me I'd buried so deep it scared me. I slipped out of bed, walked into the living room, and stared out the window into the dark city. Somewhere out there, Zane was trying to forget me, just like I was pretending to forget him. I opened my phone again. Typed, "What do you mean it wasn't just once?" Then deleted it. Typed again. "I'm not okay." Deleted that too. What I really wanted to say was, "You ruined me. Or maybe you set me free." But I didn't send anything. The next day, Claire suggested we visit the farmer's market. She wore a sundress, held my hand, took photos like we were perfect. I played along. But every time I smiled, I wondered if it looked convincing enough. Every time she looked away, I wondered if she could sense what I'd done. We bought sunflowers, ate churros, watched street musicians perform like nothing was fractured between us. But I knew. The betrayal wasn't just the night with Zane. It was every second afterward that I kept lying. That night, Claire cooked dinner. We drank wine. She talked about wedding colors. I nodded. "You're really quiet this weekend," she said gently. "I know. Something happened with Zane?" I paused. She looked at me, serious now. Liam. I met her eyes. He made me question things I thought I'd figured out. Like what? My throat went dry. Who I am. Who I want to be. She didn't speak for a long time. Then, is there someone else? I couldn't lie anymore. Not when the truth was burning through my chest. There was a moment, I said. It wasn't planned. I didn't expect it. Her face didn't crumble. She didn't scream. She just stared at me like she didn't recognize the man sitting across the table. Was it a woman? She asked. I shook my head. And that silence, that was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. She packed that night. No tears. No theatrics. Just folded her dresses and dreams into a bag and zipped it closed. I offered to drive her home. She declined. Figure yourself out, Liam, she said at the door. But don't come back to me halfway. I nodded, knowing I'd already lost her. After she left, I didn't call Zane. But I didn't erase him either. His scent was still on my sheet. His fingerprints still somewhere on my skin. His voice still echoing in my head. It was never just once,